What's up, sim racing fans? We're back with another video. Today, we're doing a video on my force feedback settings. I have been doing tons of research trying to find plug and play force feedback settings for the Moza R12, and I can't find anything out there. I know that force feedback is a preference thing, so you can't always just plug and play, but when you're first starting out as a sim racer and you don't even know what it's supposed to feel like, it's nice to be able to plug settings in and at least see if you can find something that you like. I struggled with that. When I did find some settings online that I wanted to try, I would be able to plug them in, and then I would be able to race with them and then be like, oh, you know, I don't really like those settings. This is what I do like. This is what I don't like. I'm still trying to figure out what each setting does, but this video is just to put out there so that way anybody with a Moza R9 or R12, because the R12 is just like the big brother to the R9, you can plug these settings into Moza Pithouse for the most part, and then at least try them and figure out whether you like them or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of my settings and my settings on iRacing, and then we'll hop into each discipline and I'll do a lap and we can see how the wheel react. You can at least check it out. One thing that I know that I personally don't like is a lot of vibration. I know that if you have the road sensitivity up, or in the force feedback effect equalizer, if you have those up high, you get this almost like gravelly, like really, I don't know how to explain it, but I know that's something that I really don't like. I like a smooth wheel. I like a smooth turning wheel. Even if I'm racing on dirt or if I'm racing on gravel, there's no play in a real steering wheel, you know. Like, I drive a decent sized truck, driving it off road, my steering wheel still turns smoothly, you know. So that's something that I personally like, and I figured out how to dial that in to my personal liking. These aren't the best settings, even though I'll probably clickbait the title, the best Moza R12 settings. Anyways, these aren't the best ones. These are really what I like. These are my personal settings on what works for me. I just leave Moza Pithouse at these settings, and then I use the auto force feedback calculator in iRacing to calculate the feedback for each car. And then sometimes I might have to bump it up a little bit if it's a little bit too low, but we'll go through that. So starting on the basic settings, I have it under performance and I have it named as use this setting, idiot. Don't think about changing it, because for a long time I would dial in some settings that I thought were good, and then I would hop into a different car, or I would, you know, something would happen and I would try to change them, and then I would lose the setting that I had, and it was always a big ordeal. So I just have this set, use this setting, don't change it. This one works. So obviously for the maximum steering angle, we got 900 degrees, because that's as far as a real car steering wheel turns. Road sensitivity, I have it at 2. I have it at gentle. I do not like I stated earlier, I do not like a lot of road vibration. Game force feedback intensity, this is at 100. You want your wheelbase to be able to put out 100% of the power that it is available to it, and then you use the game force feedback to turn it down, because the game is going to tell the wheelbase how much torque to put out, and if you have that game force feedback intensity turned down to 50%, but the game is wanting more, then you're not going to get everything out of your wheelbase. You're not going to get the full potential of your wheelbase. So I always have that set at 100. For me, I have the maximum wheel speed set at 50%. Wheel spring strength I have set at 0. I don't want it springing back to the middle, and that's all that does, is it helps with centering. This setting gives a return to center effect, and I don't want that. I don't want it always, because then you get really bad oscillation, which the Moza stuff already oscillates, so you don't need any help. Wheel damper, I have this set at 35%. I want a little bit of dampening. I don't want the wheel slinging back and forth, so I have a little bit of dampening just to help slow the wheel down a little bit. Maximum output torque limit, 100%. This is the maximum allowed output of the torque of the motor. You want to be able to use all of your torque that's available on your wheelbase. So have that set at 100. Steering wheel inertia, this is really based on which wheel you have on, I always just leave it at 2800, because for the most of the time I'm running the CS or the RS wheel. I mean, I have my own custom rim on it. Cleetus McFarland MPI custom wheel rim. I guess it's not custom, he sells them on the website, but and this is the RS V2 button box bolted onto it. Natural inertia 200. I'm not exactly sure what this does, but I've played with it a lot and that's what feels good. Wheel friction, again, I want a little bit of wheel friction. I don't want this thing to feel like a spring. I don't want it to feel like it's gliding. I want it to feel, you know, like tires are rubbing on the ground. Speed dependent dampening. I have this set at 60%. And what this does is, I'll just read it. It says this parameter is used to increase the dampening of the steering wheel according to the speed in the game. So you get dampening essentially when you are at a certain speed, right? And then the next setting is where you set that speed. So I have it set to 100 kilometers an hour, where the speed dependent dampening kicks in at 100 kilometers an hour. So when you're traveling at over 100 kilometers an hour, then you get even a little bit more dampening than from that previous setting. Force feedback equalizer. This again is just like the frequencies, how you can fine tune things. So what you'll notice is if you come over back here and you say put this at 10, and then you go to your force feedback equalizer, it changes. So that's all that's doing. So you can dial these in how you want, but like I just leave it at 2, and then I leave it at the stock, whatever 2 is, because I don't like it shaking or vibrating a ton. I have a Next Level Racing FH8 seat, you know, inlay to shake, and I have pedals. I have the haptic motor, the Simagic haptic motors on the back of my pedals. Those supply the shaking, that supplies the curb feel, and, you know, the traction control and all that stuff. I don't need it in my wheel. Base force feedback curve, I leave that completely linear. We want it to be in a straight line. We want the feedback to be even. And then miscellaneous, I just leave this all alone. And when I started with these settings, I started with the performance setting. So if you just did the official performance, that's what all these are. So the soft limit strength is hard, stiffness. I just leave all this alone. So those are my force feedback settings for the Moza R12. Feel free to pause. If I went too fast, pause, copy them. Let me know down in the comments if I should change anything, or if I should try something, or what you found for you. I'm always willing to adapt and evolve and learn. So now let's hop into a session, just a practice session, and let's check out my iRacing settings. And we will just hop into the new BMW M2, that car that just came out with the update. And we'll just hop into one of these practices and we'll do a lap. All right, so I'm not even going to attempt to say the name of this track. So here we are. We'll hop in real quick. I've never touched the wheel range. It's at 886. It's not quite 900. I just leave it there. The wheel still turns 900 degrees. So I've put it at 900 before, I think. I'm pretty sure I've put it at 900 before, and it always ends up right there after you recalibrate it. So once you calibrate your wheel, that's where it ends up. I just leave it there. Obviously, enable force feedback. Use linear mode, reduce force when parked. So when you're parked, it's not super hard. The strength, that's the strength of the car that you're in. So that varies from car to car. Your wheel force set at 12 Newton meters, because your R12 is only capable of 12 Newton meters. So you set your wheel force at what it's fully capable of. That's why in your Moza pithouse settings, you have it set at 100. Intensity, 50%. Pretty sure that intensity is how hard the auto sets your force feedback. So if you turn that up to 100, when you do the auto, then it'll be harder than if it was at 50. All right, so those are the in-game iRacing force feedback settings. These settings even work in drifting for me. So we hopped in to an Assetto Corsa drift lobby, and we're gonna do some drifting. So same settings, they work. They definitely work. I can drift, no problem like this. But if I was going to be try hard drifting, I would probably turn the wheel speed up and turn the damper down, just so the wheel will spin a little bit faster. For, you know, simplicity's sake, you can drift with these settings too. So same settings, haven't changed anything. My force feedback in the car is set at 40%. Now let's do a lap or two. Don't get me wrong, these are definitely not the best drift settings, but like I said, definitely doable. Come on, G the straight. Well, I hopped in just to do basically a couple test laps and find myself throwing down some sick tandems with the boys. With the randoms, I guess, not the boys. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you like my Moza force feedback settings. Give them a shot. Tell me what you think. We'll see you in the next one.